Hey everybody, just want to welcome you all back from a nice, hopefully restful, long weekend and get us back to working. So for this video, I really want to discuss where we're at with the project and the class so far, mainly focusing ourselves on the project. So to start that, I want to explain why I broke up the discussion board into two sections this week, part A and part B. Part A I posted yesterday, as I mentioned in our email. I'm going to be posting part B tomorrow. The purpose of part A, to write a summary of the article you've picked in more depth, is to hopefully help you do two things. One, to really confirm that this is the choice that you've made and that you are standing behind it and happy with the choice you've made. And two, and I almost believe this is more important, to begin to, how do I put this? Develop your ideas and begin writing better papers. One of the things I say most to my students is that the hardest thing, or one of the hardest things about writing, it's not the grammar, it's not writing introductions, but it's knowing what you're going to write about. Ideas, why you're writing, what material you want to incorporate into your text. Once a lot of that gets squared away, a lot of the other difficult stuff falls into place and becomes a lot easier. So by writing this larger summary, I'm hoping that it helps us to develop our ideas, which is pretty much where we are at in terms of the phases of writing research. Right, last week, the first phase, first step, generating ideas. We've generated those ideas, and now it's time to process those ideas. And the best way to process your ideas as a writer, as a thinker, is to write that stuff down, whether that's digitally through a computer or on a phone or a tablet, or whether that's actually putting pen to paper, or the old-fashioned way, which is still my favorite way to process my ideas. I think it's easier. I think it's more fluid. I like it a lot better. After I do that, of course, I go to a computer and I type things up. But before that, I like to just write stuff sloppily in a notebook for myself. So what I would like for you to be doing on your own this week, and this isn't something I'm going to be looking at until I read the first copy of your paper, right? So the discussion board is something I'm looking at. This I'm asking you to do on your own as a means to develop your paper, right? We're 3 weeks into the semester. We have another 2.5, 3 weeks until the paper is due, due on the 28th. So what I think you should be doing this week is, I think you should be, I don't want to say write a first draft because that's sometimes scary to people, but I want you to start writing about your art, your fake news story, what you've chosen, and start to write in relation to the paper, what I've asked you to do. It's a good idea to reread the prompt. It's an even better idea to rewatch the video of me really going over it in detail. But you should read a prompt first once you get it, again when you start writing, and then lastly before you actually submit your paper, to really familiarize yourself and make sure you're doing what I've asked you to do and not what you thought I asked you to do, or not what you wanted to do, but again, what I asked you to do, because it's part of your grade. So I really encourage you to jot down your ideas in really long form, informal writing. I mean, most good writing starts this way. Most professional writers will tell you that if they're writing a 3 to 4 page piece, it's going to start with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of just random ideas that go boom, boom, all over the place, here, there. When they're done with that, they reread it, they start to cross out, X out what they like, circle things they do like, and that brings it back to the next draft. So rather than calling this your first draft, rather than saying, hey everybody, this week I really think you should be starting your first draft, what I really want you to do is to start your, as Anne Lamott says, your baby draft, your shitty first draft, something that you know nobody's going to be reading, but that you're going to process ideas. So what does this mean? First, and most importantly, don't get caught up with writing an introduction. Or if you do, make sure it's real general and you get through it. The most important part of a first draft, a baby draft as we're calling it, is to have at least a rough thesis statement. But that opening hook, so many of my students get caught up with it and it causes writer's block. The introduction's not important then. We'll talk about introductions a little bit more later this week in another video I'm going to do. But for right now, really the only thing that matters for that introductory paragraph is a general idea of what you're going to be writing about, and really trying to hone in and figure out what the main purpose of your paper is, your main argument, your thesis statement. After that, you move into all the other stuff that you think that you might need to do. If I've asked you to address 5 literacy questions, okay, start thinking about that. Start writing all your ideas down, even if they're bad ideas, even if they're repetitive ideas. The point is to get all the ideas out. It's a lot easier to know what you, it's a lot easier to know what you're gonna do when you've first thought of what you can do. So by thinking about more of what you can do, you'll say, hey, maybe that's a bad idea, and you won't do it. It'll really prevent writer's block, and it'll prevent you from writing, and then erasing, and writing. By thinking about, by doing all this extra work, oh, Professor Smith's asking you to do so much extra work. I am. But by doing it now, it prevents you from doing even more work later. It makes better work in the shorter run. So if you think it's, oh, I don't want to do this because it creates more work in the long run, it doesn't. It actually creates less work if you want to do good work. If the sole purpose of writing the paper is to just get through it and then just hand it in, then this is not the way to go. But if you are genuinely interested in being a good writer, this is a step that you must go through. Step 1 is a must, generating ideas. Step 2, processing ideas, is as vitally as important as step 1. And if you're not following each step, the paper is going to be hard to write, especially as you start getting to 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 20 page papers. This processing of your ideas is vitally important. So what I would like for you to be doing this week for yourself, for the development of your paper, is to start writing your ideas down, to start drafting, but to know that I'm not reading this draft and that nobody else is reading this draft. And the idea of this draft is to write more than you need so that you can cut back, cut out the excess, and really only keep the good stuff. I find it so often that when students just write in the spot, there might be 1 or 2 good lines and they go off the rails and now they're talking about something else, or it's repetitive. But again, writing your ideas, processing this, writing this long piece is a really great idea so that you can write this 4 to 6 page paper and have it concise and really get to the points that are important for this paper, for what I've asked you to do, without filler, without nonsense, and keep you on track, keep you with purpose. So what I'm asking you to do this week, a recap. 1, first, your discussion board. Please summarize in depth the fake news article that you've chosen. Talk back its historical context. When did it start? What happened as a result of it? What sort of people were affected? Did maybe somebody get voted in? For instance, there's something called Pizzagate. If you haven't looked it up, it's a real interesting one. But as a result of this fake news story, somebody went to a pizza shop in, I believe, Chicago or Florida, you'd have to confirm, with a gun and was like, show me the basement. I know the kids are there. But there was no basement there. And it was a fake story. So I'm also really interested in why you chose to write what you, I'm very interested to know why you chose what you've chosen. Out of all the stories over the last 5, 6, 10 years, you chose something. Why? Can you please write about that a little bit? The other thing, as I just mentioned, please, for this week, start writing your ideas down. By next week, we move into actually writing a solid first draft of this paper. So by next Monday, by Sunday night, I'm going to hope that a lot of you are really comfortable going into a draft that you feel confident that you can get through. Again, the paper is due the 28th. Today is the 9th. It gives us about 19 days. I feel that's pretty sufficient for what I'm asking you to do. So let's continue working. All right. Any questions, post it to the discussion board, email me. My phone number's on the syllabus. If you want to set up a Zoom meeting to talk, let's do so. I'm here. I'll talk to you in a little bit. There'll be more videos this week. Thanks, guys and gals.